Hello and welcome to Mad Knitting. This is episode 90. My name is Susan. My pronouns are she, her, hers, and I live in Madison, Wisconsin with my family, my husband and my daughter. We also have a son in college. And you can find me on Ravelry and Bluesky as madtownmama and Instagram as madtown_mama. Okay, so I got the intro part out of the way. I always have a hard time with that. It's such an awkward thing to do. Still, even on episode 90, I have been doing this YouTube channel for almost exactly 4 years. I think I started in October of 2021. And I intend to keep going. It's a little tricky finding times to film because I now work full-time on site away from home. It's not entirely fair to say that I'm too busy to do videos, but it is a little bit tricky finding time at home, alone, when there's still some daylight. We will see how this goes as we get into winter. But anyway, I'm here now, aren't I? Sometimes I talk a little bit about current events, and sometimes I don't. It is, whew, it's been a lot lately than the last 2 weeks, and I don't want to bring you all down. So I think I will set all of that aside for now and just share the knitting with you because that is what is bringing me joy. It is helping me hold things together, and it is helping me find community with other people, and that is really important right now. So let's just jump in. I have a few finished things, actually just 2 finished things. I somehow thought it would be more, but I'm like real close on some other stuff. So let's start with a pair of socks, and you know what? These almost don't count as finished because I have to hide the 2 ends in and like take the stitch marker off, but they're so close that if I don't share them now, I'm never going to get around to it, so I might as well show you. These are just a pair of socks that I have made. I think I'm going to keep these, and I'll explain why in just a sec when I talk about the yarn. But as you can see, they are pretty plain, cuff to toe, stockinette stitch for the most part. I do have a garter short row heel here, which I enjoy doing for self-striping socks. For these, I believe I cast on 68 stitches instead of 64 because I wanted to try a little different fit. Here's the thing, I have another pair of socks in this same yarn, different colorway that I talked about in my last episode. And they're a little on the snug side. Maybe because they've been washed in the machine also. But I just wanted to see what would happen if I bumped up the stitch count just a little bit and see how that fits my foot. The other reason I'm going to keep these, and I'll show you what's left of the yarn because it is very pretty. The lighting is not great here. Y'all, I am not, just so you know, I am not a professional podcaster. I have no intentions of becoming like a professional YouTube person. I am not out to get lots of, like, to be an influencer or anything. So therefore, I record on my phone. I use the light that I have. I use the microphone that's on my phone. Like, I'm not ready to start investing in equipment. So the light I have is the light you see. And hopefully things show up. If things show up really, really badly, I'll insert pictures, which is easy enough to do. So anyway, this yarn is part of the label tour, but it's called About Berlin Yak Colorblock. I got this on sale from Web several years ago. I don't shop at Webs anymore because they have sold out to some corporate overlord that's like owned by a real right-wing fundy family. So I'm not interested in supporting them. But this has a little bit of yak content in it. It's like merino, yak, and nylon. And that yak, I think, is bringing some properties to the socks that I was not expecting. So the other pair, as I shared last time, there are some fibers working themselves loose, and it's almost like pilling, but it doesn't come off the fabric as easily as pills would come off. Like I tried to use a little de-pilling comb thing and it didn't work. So I just want to see what happens if I hand wash these socks. I want to see if that affects how they wear, and also see if that prevents them from shrinking at all, because I do think that other pair has shrunk just a little bit, even though I wash them in a regular cycle, but it's not like a lot of agitation or anything. So one finished enough. We're calling it good enough for today. My other finished object, you can see it over here. I am really excited about this one, but I haven't been able to wear it yet because it is still too warm for a wool sweater here in Wisconsin at the end of September. We are 2 days into fall. It's September 23rd. So it is starting to cool off little by little, but it's still not wool sweater weather. So here it is. I did take a few pictures. I did try it on and take a few pictures last week, so I will insert those. I'm thrilled with the fit. I'm thrilled with how this turned out. And I'm thrilled that I finally made this yarn work for me. It's Clara Parkes yarn from like 2015, maybe 2016. It's like a CVM Romeldale blend, I think. It's fingering weight. I think it behaves a little more like a light sport weight. It's woolen spun. It's perfect for color work because the wool just sticks to itself and blends beautifully for color work. And it feels like it will wear well, but it's not scratchy, at least for me. So this pattern is called Fernwood. It's by Tanya Barley. Great pattern. I thoroughly enjoyed knitting it. I made two very, very minor changes just to construction. So the first thing is that she calls for either a provisional cast on, or I think you can start with the ribbing. I don't like that. I think that often, I've done that before, but especially when you start with provisional cast on, that's like really stretchy and doesn't give much structure or strength to the neck, and the entire weight of the sweater is hanging off the neck. This is not a heavy sweater, mind you, but I wanted a little more structure. So I just cast on at the stockinette portion and went from there and picked up the stitches from the cast on edge later to do the neckline rather than having a provisional cast on. So that's a very minor modification, but that's one thing that I did. The other thing I did was add a few increases along the sides for a bit of A-line shaping. I don't even know if you can see it. I mean, kind of, if you really look, you can see that it's a bit of an A-line shaping, but mostly there's not a lot of ease in the sweater, and I really didn't want it tight across like my middle or my hips. So that was just for my own comfort. And I probably made the sleeves longer than she called for too, because I usually have to do that. I don't know if I have long arms or if designers just usually design for like a bracelet length sleeve, which I cannot stand, but anyway, one of the things that I really love about the color work, and I know I mentioned this last time, is that the designer extends the color work beyond just the yoke. So you can see there's this gorgeous design all the way down the yoke, but even after you split for the sleeves, it continues down the body and down the sleeves just a little bit. And I think that this helps with the proportion. If you've got too much right at the top, you know, that's not the most flattering on everyone, and I like how this worked out. So that is my big win of a finished object, and you can bet as soon as it cools down enough for sweater weather, I will be wearing this. I don't know when that's gonna happen. Like I checked the forecast right before I started recording, and it's like gonna be in the mid 70s the next few days and up to 80 over the weekend. That's Fahrenheit. So that's pretty warm for fall, to be honest. Okay, I have a lot of works in progress, but I'm gonna show you the ones that I've actually worked on that I have something to show. And it is my goal to pare that down, like finish some stuff and reduce the pile of things that I have in progress, because it's hard to make progress. It's hard to finish things when you have too many of them going. It's getting to be a lot. So unsurprisingly, I have a lot of socks going right now because socks are something that I can knit at work. They're small enough I can bring them with me. They're unobtrusive enough that I can be, if it's the right kind of meeting, I can be working on them in a meeting, or, you know, if I'm on a Zoom call, I can be working on them below the screen where the camera shows. So here's a sock that I knit pretty much entirely during a training last week. I think I had just like the last few rounds of the toe to go when we were done for the day. Yeah. So as you can see, it's self-striping. The yarn is Felici from Knitpicks. It's a fingering weight yarn. I got this from somebody's D-stash like a year and a half ago. And I've been working my way through. I got a bunch of it from her, and I think I have, when I'm done with this, I will have enough for one more pair of socks. And of course, a whole pile of leftovers that I need to figure out what to do with. So this, I'm not sure who this sock is for yet, but I cast on 72 stitches with a size 1 needle. So this will fit like probably a men's size 9 or so. What would be the women's equivalent in women's shoe sizes, like 10.5, 11, something like that. Bigger than my foot. I wear a size 7. But I thought these looked like really nice fall colors, especially for a masculine leaning person. So that's why I cast on more stitches. Again, I did this garter short row heel, which I just really like the look of. I think it's an interesting break in the texture. And I also feel like the way I do short rows, I do the double stitch where you sort of pull it over the needle to be an upside down stitch. And when you resolve those as you're coming across, I just think it looks better in garter than in stockinette. So that's how I do it. Because these will be not for me, for somebody else, I will probably make a conscious effort to start the second sock. Like I will pull yarn off of this skein and try to start the stripe at the same place so that they match. Normally, I don't bother with that with self-striping yarn and with Felici yarn, but for these I think I will, just for consistency's sake. So these go pretty fast because it's just stockinette the whole way. Like there's not a purl stitch in the entire sock except for the cuffs. So they tend to go pretty fast. I have a second pair of socks that I have started since my last episode. I had a lot of knitting time at work. Just so you know, I had like 2 full days of training last week, and I've had some other training and meeting sessions this week that just have been very conducive to knitting. So I'm not complaining about that. So in an effort to reduce my stash of Knitpicks sock yarn, because I do have quite a lot, and because I was getting a little bit tired of the stockinette all the time, in preparation for this 2-day training, I got the Felici, and I also pulled out a skein of Stroll tweed. This is the color Dove Heather. I think I got a bunch of this tweed when it was on sale, and I've, again, been working my way through it. I've made a lot of socks out of this yarn. None that I've kept for myself, so I don't really know how it holds up. But I like how it feels to knit with, and I like how it looks. So I've knit a whole entire sock, and I am pretty far down the foot of the second one. I'll show you the one that's done so you can see it close up. So I decided to try something a little different than just plain stockinette stitch. I hope this is showing up. I know the light's getting a little goofy. There we go. But I wanted to experiment with doing something in ribbing because I like how ribbing stretches and hugs the leg and the foot better. And this is a variation on a different sock that I designed, and I still haven't written up. I mean, like literally 3 or 4 years ago. It's shameful. Here, I stretch it over my hand, you can see it better. So I have this little sort of mirrored cable situation happening down the sides of the cuff and then continuing down the top of the foot, but not the back. Like once you get to the heel, these cables are done. So these are they go over 3 stitches. So it's either 1 stitch crossing over 2 stitches this way, or 1 stitch crossing over 2 stitches this way. So you can do it without a cable needle if you want to. I have been, because it's small enough I can manage it. And I really like how it's coming out. Because of the tweed, the pattern is subtle. It's not super in your face. I will be interested to try this again in a solid yarn where the pattern stands out a little more. But I'm happy with this. I feel like in the tweed yarn, especially in this gray color, it's very, feels like hiking socks, or maybe even like cozy winter socks. I don't know. I'm not quite at cozy season yet. It's too warm for that so far for me. But yeah. Again, I made these I could wear if I actually had made the foot a little shorter, but I intentionally cast on more stitches than I would for my foot. For these, I cast on 70 stitches. I want an even number that divides in half into an odd number so that I have a perfectly symmetrical heel for those columns of knit stitches to continue into the slip stitches of the heel. I don't know if that made sense to you, but it makes sense to me. So for myself, I probably would cast on 66 stitches instead of 70. So these would be, I mean, it's pretty forgiving with the ribbing and everything, but these would be for a foot a little bit bigger than mine, probably like a woman's size 8, 8.5. Or maybe even 9. Yeah. So I can't commit to when, but I still want to write up this pattern because it's similar to another one that I've done. I'm really happy with how this turned out. It's very intuitive and it's a little more interesting than just a plain stockinette sock. And I mean, this is how much I've done on it since like Friday, I think. Like I've just been going like gangbusters on here. It's very potato chippy when you have a cable pattern because you keep wanting to get to the next repeat and the next repeat. So those are 2 socks. That's not even all the socks I have in progress, but that's all the ones I've made enough progress to show you. I do want to give you an update on this sweater that I started like in May, I think. I don't even remember for sure. So in case you don't remember or haven't watched, or you know, don't keep careful notes on everything I say on my channel, because why would you? This is part of a cardigan. The design is called Don't Ask Again. It's by Isabel Kramer, and it's a pattern I've had in my library for ages. And it's a nice, pretty basic, classic cardigan design with some little details that make it look a little more refined than just a regular plain sweater would be. I am using Brooklyn Tweed Loft yarn for it, and you may remember, or if you have been watching and remember, the whole story behind that was that I had, like, they're not making it anymore, they're discontinuing all of their yarn, and I had bought this ages ago when a yarn store was closing, so the dye lot was like years and years old. Here's an unwound skein so you can see it. Like, I think this is even the old label design. I think they updated their branding at some point. So I was working on another cardigan called A Bloom by Ann Ginger. Gorgeous design, really well written. And I got a good bit of the way through it. I think I was about halfway through the knitting and way more than halfway through my yarn. Or maybe I was halfway through the yarn and realized I was not nearly halfway through the sweater. Anyway, I was going to need at least 2 more skeins. I found some on D-Stash. The dye lot was so drastically different, there was no way it was going to work. So I abandoned that design, at least for now, and found something much simpler that didn't need so much yardage. So that's how I ended up making this Don't Ask Again cardigan. So to review, it is top down. You cast on stitches for the neck. You're going back and forth for most of it because it's a cardigan. And I don't know if this is, I don't know if this is like compound raglan or exactly what, but you can see that you are working, this is like at the top, you know, of the shoulder. You're working increases much more quickly for a while to shape the top of it. And then it settles down, and then you are doing more increases as you get to the bottom of the sleeve here. So I can't even remember. I think the increases were happening along this, just the sleeve for after the shoulder, like a bunch along the shoulder, then just along the sleeve, and then both. She ended up with this S curve basically. And you get, for some people, this is a much better fit along the shoulder and the top of the sleeve than a raglan. I think that is very dependent on what kind of shoulder shape you have. Some people have very square, broad shoulders. Some people have definitely more sloped shoulders, and all that factors into what construction style and how ease works, like how that fits you and can play into your preferences for sweater. I don't know if I'm real square shouldered, not particularly, but I do think that this fits my shoulders very nicely. So what happened was I got done with the body and cast off and everything, and then set it aside and started a whole bunch of new projects. So I picked this up once I was finally done with the Fernwood sweater, did the whole sleeve. So I've got the sleeve done. You can see I've got my markers there for the decreases, and tried it on just to see how it fit. And it was hard to tell how the fit was working because this is curling in so much. But I was kind of thinking it fits beautifully across the top. And again, like especially, like I made it long enough to be, I don't know how well this is gonna, well, no, it's not gonna show because I wasn't done, but I wanted it like below the top of my hips. I don't like cropped sweaters at all. I do not wear cropped sweaters. So I wanted it long enough to kind of be over my hips, but I didn't want it tight across my hips because that is not comfortable, and I don't like how that looks, especially if it's got a little bit of ease at the top. Like that's just backwards. So I made the decision to rip back quite a bit of the body. I mean, where's my first increase? I'm doing some A-line increases just like I did with Fernwood, just to give it a little bit of room at the bottom there. So I ripped back a lot, about all the way to here where this marker is. So that marker shows where I'm doing increases. And I'm going to do a set of 4 of them, which will add, this is 6 stitches per inch. If I'm adding 16 stitches total around the width of the body, that's going to be 2.5, 2 3/4 inches or so. 2 2/3 inches more circumference at the bottom of the sweater than at the chest. And I think that'll be just about right. Cause you, like I said, I think it's comfortable to have more ease around the hips. So I need to finish the body, do the ribbing, put on the second sleeve, do the neckband and the button band. So there's kind of a lot left. But it's smooth sailing now. I've already done one sleeve, so I've got that figured out, and the body is pretty straightforward. So one of the things that I like about this pattern is that there are some details. Like you've got this column of purl stitches down the sides that just gives it a little bit of a tailored look. And also down the back, you have a couple set of purl stitches. It's not shown up real well here. I think it almost shows up better on the inside, because on the inside, okay, this is like not working. On the inside of the sweater, you can see their knit stitches, so they are they are more prominent. But it just, you know, just those lines give it a tailored look, and give it a little interest where you wouldn't have interest. And I'm using this nice Tweedy yarn in, by the way, I love this color, this deep red color. This is just my kind of thing. So yeah, hoping to have this done in time for sweater weather too, very soon. The last work in progress that I want to show you is because I need some fun and whimsy in my life. You know, there are so many serious things going on now. The nonsense coming out of the Health and Human Services Department right now is just beyond. I mean, that's what's been in the news all day is, you know, telling pregnant people that Tylenol causes thing. I'm not even gonna like say it out loud because I think the more people say it, the more they will associate those two things that are actually completely unrelated. And I wish people would stop trying to use logic and data and evidence to argue against a point of view that is complete lunacy. Like, they obviously don't care about science. They obviously don't care about actual evidence. So it's like playing chess with a pigeon. That's a metaphor I saw somewhere. Like, it's absurd and pointless to play chess with a pigeon. So why are we actually trying to argue? I find the whole thing extremely frustrating. And I think, you know, at the heart of it, what they really like is for women to suffer. I don't think it's that they don't care about women's pain. I think they like women to suffer, and they want women to suffer because they somehow think this is more righteous, or this will help them gain control, or this will help them extract more labor out of us. I don't know. Maybe it's all of those things, but it's bad and we should not be encouraging it. So all that to say, I need more fun and whimsy in my life because, you know, time's a wasting. I can't stop those people from doing those horrible things, but I can keep knitting and doing things that bring me joy. So I am, all that to say, I am making a fox, which you cannot tell from this blob that like looks like some kind of mutant sea creature right now. But I will put a picture up. I don't have a good, my printer is black and white, so I'll put a picture. But this pattern is Fox Doll by Claire Garland. She is well known, I think she's in Britain. She is well known for her toy patterns and her, like, you know, animals and miniature things that are extremely realistic. She's got a whole bunch of different versions of like rabbits and bunnies, and it is amazing how realistic they look. I actually bought also her baby bunny pattern because I really want to make that. But she's got owl patterns, and I mean, it's just ingenious. This is not something, even though it's very small and doesn't involve much knitting, this is not something that's going very quickly because I can only work on it when I'm sitting down, following the pattern very carefully line by line, without really any other distractions. Like maybe I can have a podcast going, but it can't be something too intense. Just because every row there's something different. You're either doing increases or short rows or binding off or something. So that said, it is very small and it's very engaging because you're doing something different just about every round, or every row, I mean. And I really hope it turns out. You know, sometimes the designers are able to get the details and everything just perfect, and it might be a little wonky on my end, but we'll see. So I'm using Berroco Lanas Light. I have this left over from another project. It's not really fox orange, but it is sort of an orangey red, and it's close enough. I needed something appropriately colored and lightweight, and in this orange, there's a little bit of white for the belly detail, I think, and the nose, and I forget. And then I also have this charcoal color, yeah, it's called charcoal, that's used for like the tip of the tail and the paws and maybe the the nose. I don't have safety eyes for the eyes. I will just embroider those on because I don't want to mess with trying to find any. And the pattern also includes instructions for knitting a little sweater, sewing a little pair of pants, and I think she even has a link to an Etsy shop somewhere where you can buy little shoes. I haven't decided if I'm going to do the clothes or if I'm just going to leave the fox, you know, in his birthday suit as God and nature intended. We'll see how the fox part goes, and then I'll decide if he gets a wardrobe or not. But I'm having a lot of fun with it. I think I want to do some more toys. I have some kits from Barrel Wool Company. I have some patterns sitting in my cart in Ravelry that I want to try. You know, for myself, for my nieces, for just people in my life who enjoy this kind of thing. And it's a good way to use up little amounts of yarn if you have scraps. These are obviously not scraps, but having fun with it. Well, that's all I have to share with you today. Starting to lose the light. I need to make my dinner, or I need to make dinner for my family. But thanks for watching, and I will see you next time.